Welcome to the Catholic Frequency Podcast. This is episode 1, and today we're going to be talking with Owen Gallagher, who lives in Ireland and is responsible for helping to organize a number of Rosary Rallies in different towns. We wanted to find out, how did he find himself in this place, in this time of his life, doing this, and did he ever think he would be? Let's find out. Owen, thank you for your time today. Tell us about how you first got involved in organizing Rosary Rallies, and how long have you been involved in doing so in Ireland?
In July 2021, a lady I know sent me a picture of 1,000 men kneeling in the street in Warsaw saying the Rosary, and it had the wow factor. So I sent it to a friend of mine, Patrick McChrystal, who's involved in Human Life International in Knock, Ireland, and had the wow factor with him. So we, from that time in July, set up the first men's rosary in Ireland, in Derry City in Northern Ireland, in October, the first Saturday in October. And as I mentioned before, the reason we picked the first Saturday is because we want to follow the 5 first Saturday devotions of Our Lady that she gave at Fatima. And would you like me to recap on that, or the 5 first Saturdays?
Sure,
conditions?
Of course.
The 5 first Saturdays, Our Lady promised that if an individual received Holy Communion, said the Rosary, meditated on the Rosary, and went to confessions within the 8 days either side of the first Saturday, if you fulfilled those 4 conditions on 5 first Saturdays, you were guaranteed to go to heaven. So this is why we picked the first Saturday. So it started in Derry on the October 2021, and then we moved to another small city, Newry, and then we moved to Belfast, and we had a very big turnout in Belfast in December. We held it once a month, and we had nearly 200 people praying in the centre of Belfast. It was a very powerful occasion. So other parts of Ireland then began to pick it up, because it went from the Polish language into the English language. Obviously, it started to spread around the world more freely, and then it was picked up by Spanish-speaking people, and it has spread to most, if not all, countries in South America, but also spread to at least 40 other countries, and it's spread to England. Around Ireland, we have 25 different towns and cities in Ireland now said. And what we call ourselves, the group that I'm involved with, the roving rosary. So we go to a town or a small city, and we say the Rosary, and we hope that the people in that area will then start their own Rosary group in that town or city. And that's happened in several places in Northern Ireland. So, for example, Derry City and Omagh, they have their own rally, and we'd like every town to have their own rally, and for us in the end to become superfluous, but it's a bit slow. After 3 years, we're still going strong, and we get, excuse me, we would get about 100, between 50 and 200 come to all our roving Rosary Rallies, depending on the time of the year and the town it's in. So that's the situation so far.
You said an interesting phrase when you were describing when you first saw these Rosary Rallies. You said there's a wow factor, especially in seeing men pray the Rosary in public, especially kneeling in reverence. Why is that a wow factor?
Several reasons. First of all, there's a statue of Our Lady at the very front of all these men, and the men all kneel in rows, so it looks very military. And for men to kneel in public and pray, it takes a lot of humility, and seeing humble people in action always has a very powerful effect. So if you see, as happened in Belfast last Christmas, we had 170 men kneeling in rows, and that included priests from the Latin Mass Association in their cassocks, about 6 of them kneeling at the back. And people passing along, it has a huge effect on them, and we've had numerous people say afterwards that they'd never witnessed anything like the power of men kneeling. And as you know, the Curie of Ars, and this may not be too popular with some women, but it's what the Curie of Ars said, one of the most holy men who ever lived. religion gains much more in influence when practiced by men. So if men lead the family, 80% of the children are likely to follow in religion. If it's all left to the woman and the husband takes no part, only about 20% of children will follow the faith. So those are statistical facts, and also headlined by what the Curé of Ars said. So seeing all these men kneeling with respect and devotion and with their beads, especially when we come to the fifth rosary decade, we always hold our beads above our head. As Padre Pio said, the rosary is the weapon. So the man who leads the rosary for us, he always says at the fifth decade, now can everybody please hold their weapons above their head? And we also show respect. All the men are asked to remove caps and to encourage people to dress appropriately, and which shows even more respect. Sorry, excuse me. So that's my perception.
Well, it's so inspirational to see the pictures and the videos that we see. You know, the great Catholic influencer Sachin posts a lot of this. In fact, he's the one who gave me your name and how we ended up talking. I don't have to tell you that the rise of secularism in my country and your country continues. To somebody who may not understand the power of the rosary, what would you say about why it's important? Why can this change the world? Do you believe it can change the world, and why?
I absolutely 100% believe that the rosary can change the world. The world is in such a bad situation at the moment in virtually every country, including Ireland. Ireland isn't the... I'm nearly 72, and Ireland has changed so much, particularly in the last 10 years. It's not the Ireland that I grew up in. I think the rosary is, as many people say, Padre Pio called it the weapon. Father Peyton said the rosary has the power of an atomic bomb. And there's a great book, 26 Heroes of the Rosary, written by an American priest, that young priest, Father Calloway. And all those 26 heroes, including Maximilian and Colby, they all show the power of the rosary. And we have seen it on a local level. When we've been saying the rosary, miracles have happened. Even in our small groups. For example, the second time we were saying the rosary, a man in our group in Newry came up to me afterwards and said, during the, excuse me, we were saying a sorrowful message during the fourth decade, the carrying of the cross. He said, I felt as if the weight of the cross was on my shoulder, and it was really terrible. And he continued that he had come to the men's rosary that day with a terrible worry which had been afflicting him for 6 months. But during the rosary, not only did the worry leave him, but he couldn't remember what he had been worrying about. So that's a minor miracle. We get lots of miracles, like a young girl walked past and saw 170 men kneeling last Christmas, and she came afterwards and said that she had been badly treated by men, and when she found 170 men kneeling asking for forgiveness for the way men had treated women, it made her go away and think, and she came back to her faith, having been away for 10 years. And numerous other incidents that haven't happened, but that's on a local scale. But on a global scale, if we could get enough people kneeling and praying, I think we could change the world. And that's why it's so important to promote the men's rosary.
I think a lot of people see these pictures and say, oh, that's wonderful. And wouldn't that be nice if it was in my hometown? But somebody's got to start it, right, in every town. And it's really not that difficult. What advice would you give to somebody who would love to see a rosary in their small town or their big city, wherever they live, but they don't think they can be the one to do it? What advice would you give to? Because maybe they are the ones that are supposed to do it.
Well, they are. They probably are the ones supposed to do it. For example, myself, if you told me 50 years ago that I'd be starting rosary around the world, I'd say you're off your rocker, because I said the rosary in a Catholic family, but when I went off to be a student, I stopped completely, and I didn't say the rosary for 15 years. And when I was young, my father used to call us out to say the rosary, you'd be climbing a tree or playing football or watching TV. And he said, right, rosary. So I developed a sort of a resentment against the rosary because this suddenly impromptu rosary every night at any time. And I gradually came back towards the rosary. And the reason I came back towards the rosary, you might be interested, is I came back from working abroad, and I was 34 and all my friends were married and all my family were married. And I really wanted to get a good Catholic girl despite not having said the rosary. So I came across something my father probably set out for me, which was a 54-day rosary novena. It's called the Irresistible Novena. And I said it. And on the 54th day, I met my wife and we were engaged within a few weeks and married within the year and 9 children later. So we tried to promote the rosary in our own family, and it worked to a certain extent. One of the problems with promoting the rosary is if you're very involved in sport or music, it's difficult to get a time when you can say it every day, but you can surmount those. Anyway, I wandered off the topic a bit there. So sorry, what was the question again?
No, I think you answered it. I really do. I just want to, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the photos that you sent me. You sent me some photos and videos. There was one, I can't remember which city you said it was, but it was the one, I think it just started. It was a video of just a few people in the rain on a street corner. I shared that on my X account. 28,000 people saw it. 2,000 people liked it. 96 people, because I asked a question with it, does this give you hope for the future to see people praying the rosary in public? Almost 100 people overwhelmingly said absolutely. So the work that's going on there is inspiring people around the world, and we can all do a little part. You know, nobody can make them happen everywhere, but we can all do something to promote this idea and try to make it happen in our hometown.
Just one last point. You did ask, how do you know it's you? If you get the idea in your head, then it is you. God has planted that seed, and if He planted planted it in my head. The one thing that did help me was the fact that Patrick McChrystal of Human Life International helped me. So if you can get somebody to back you, one man or another man, it does make it a lot easier. But if you can't, sometimes you just have to go it alone.
Yeah, I think sometimes when people think about this, they think they got to find 20 people to start. It really can start with 2 people, right? That's people.
Right. Just two people. And we found the best way is just to contact phone your friends and say, myself and Patrick, we're having the first men's rosary in Derry. Can you come and support us? And can you get your friends, get one friend to come? And so our first rosary in Derry, using that technique, we had 80 men, and it's just continued to grow after that.
That's our conversation with Owen Gallagher from Ireland, who's spreading the Most Holy Rosary, helping other people to grow in their love and devotion of the Rosary. We host a Rosary every weekday morning on the X platform. Follow Catholic Frequency, and our handle to look us up is Catholic FQ. Every weekday, people from around the world, from the Philippines, from Australia, Fiji, Europe, and Africa, as well as North America, of course, join us to pray the Rosary together. We usually have about between 50 and 70 people praying the Rosary. So we hope to see you there, and we'll see you next time on the Catholic Frequency Podcast.